I thought I was alone in the forest, and that was exactly how I wanted it. I needed a break from everything, so I decided to take a solo camping trip in the remote national forest near my hometown. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend, just me, my tent, and the quiet of nature. But what I experienced was anything but peaceful. I arrived at the campsite in the late afternoon, set up my tent, and then took a short hike to explore the area. The forest was dense and beautiful, with sunlight filtering through the trees. Everything seemed perfect. That night, I sat by the campfire, roasting marshmallows and listening to the occasional rustle of leaves. Around midnight, I went to bed, exhausted from the day's hike. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of movement outside my tent. At first, I thought it was a deer or some other wildlife, but then I heard distinct footsteps, slow and deliberate. I was immediately on edge. I quietly unzipped the tent just a little and peered outside, but the darkness made it impossible to see anything clearly. The footsteps continued, circling around my campsite. I tried to stay calm, thinking it was probably someone else who had gotten lost. But the way the footsteps moved, sometimes stopping and then starting again, felt intentional, like whoever was out there was deliberately trying to intimidate me. I reached for my flashlight and turned it on, aiming it outside, but the light revealed nothing but trees and darkness. The footsteps stopped abruptly. I stayed awake for the rest of the night, listening to every sound, but nothing else happened. The next morning, I went outside to inspect the area. To my horror, I discovered that someone had been at my campsite. There were fresh footprints in the dirt, much larger than my own. They led to the edge of the forest and then disappeared. I checked my gear, and everything seemed untouched, but I felt an overwhelming sense of unease. I packed up as quickly as I could and left the forest that day. I reported the incident to the local ranger station, but they assured me it was likely just a prank by other campers. I wanted to believe them, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching me, waiting for the right moment to make their presence known. To this day, I avoid camping alone. It was supposed to be a simple day hike, just a few hours out in the forest to clear my head. I had taken this trail dozens of times before, but something happened on this particular day that I still can't quite explain. I started my hike early in the morning, and everything was going smoothly. The trail was familiar, and I was enjoying the peaceful solitude. About halfway through, I took a break by a small stream, sipping water and eating a granola bar. I decided to take a different path back, a shortcut I'd read about in a hiking forum. It was supposed to save me some time. I followed the new path, which quickly became less defined. The foliage grew denser and the trail became more overgrown. I thought it was just part of the experience and pressed on. After a while, I noticed something strange. The trees around me seemed to change. Their shapes were different, almost like the forest itself was shifting. I continued walking, but the trail became more and more confusing. I tried to retrace my steps, but every direction I turned seemed to lead me deeper into the unfamiliar forest. I checked my map and compass, but they were both malfunctioning, the needle spinning wildly. Panic began to set in as the sun started to lower, casting eerie shadows through the trees. I stumbled upon what looked like an old campsite. There was a fire pit and some discarded gear, but no one was around. I called out, but only my own voice echoed back. I decided to stay there and wait for help, but as darkness fell, I heard faint, unsettling noises, rustling leaves, faint whispers, and the occasional snap of a twig. In the middle of the night, I saw a figure moving through the trees, but it was too far away to make out clearly. I yelled for help, but the figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. I tried to stay awake, but exhaustion eventually took over, and I fell asleep. Me looked unfamiliar, even though I was sure it was the same place I had been. I retraced my steps, using the sun as a guide, and finally emerged back onto a known trail. When I returned home, I reported the incident to local authorities. They found nothing unusual and suggested I had simply gotten lost. But something felt off about that entire experience. It was as if the forest itself had conspired to keep me there. I haven't been back since, and I can't shake the feeling that something was watching me that day. I was a volunteer with a search and rescue team, and I'd been on numerous missions, but none were as unsettling as the one I encountered in the dense forest on the outskirts of our town. A report came in about a hiker who had gone missing. It was a routine call, and I was part of the team sent to search for him. We began our search in the area where he was last seen, a rugged part of the forest with thick underbrush and challenging terrain. After hours of searching, we heard a faint voice calling for help. We followed the sound and eventually found a man, disheveled and dirty, but alive. He was huddled near a small cave, and it was clear he had been there for some time. He was dehydrated and scared, but otherwise unharmed. As we helped him up and prepared to lead him out, he told us something that sent chills down our spines. He claimed that he had been stalked by something in the forest. He described hearing footsteps, seeing shadows moving, and feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched. He even mentioned hearing a low growl at one point. We were skeptical, but focused on getting him to safety. However, as we made our way out, I noticed something strange. There were odd markings on some of the trees, like scratches or symbols. It was as if someone, or something, had deliberately marked the path. We found similar markings leading away from the cave. The missing man's account became even more unsettling when he revealed that he had seen a figure in the distance on several occasions. He wasn't sure if it was a person or something else, but it seemed to follow him wherever he went. The more he talked, the more it seemed like he was describing something that wasn't entirely human. Once we got him back to safety, he was taken to the hospital, and his story was documented. We went back to search the area again, but found nothing out of the ordinary. The markings had disappeared, and the forest seemed as peaceful as ever. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something was watching us that day. The man eventually recovered and went back to his normal life, but he never spoke of what happened in detail again. The forest has always felt different to me since that day, and I can't help but wonder what might have been lurking in those dark, dense woods.